I'm Mary Lou Whitney, and you're watching OTB in Saratoga Springs, one of my favorite places to be in the world.
Magnum's at the rail. Lava Man is alongside in second. Ace Blue's actually back into the bid. He's only a length and a half from the front. Super Frolic is next, and Lava Man and Magnum come to the final furlong, and Magnum has lost the lead to Lava Man. Lava Man is ahead in front. Magnum is battling on bravely and coming back. Ace Blue's only a length from Lava Man. Lava Man has the lead. He's put away Magnum, but Ace Blue is charging. Lava Man, Ace Blue, right together!
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Down the Stretch. Along with my colleague Mike Veach, the racing columnist with the Saratogian, I'm Mark Asano, welcoming you to this morning's program on this mid-July summer Saturday, nice and warm, and in front of us, 90 minutes featuring 4 very special guests from around the country. We'll begin and end here in New York. We'll begin in just a few moments with NYRA Senior Vice President Bill Nader, and he'll chat about an upcoming experiment at the spa. We'll wind the show down with Mr. Toby Sheets, and as the New York assistant to Steve Asmussen. Tomorrow, that barn will send out, I think, one of the most, maybe the most improved horse of 2006, that being a new in the Tom Fool. In between, we'll go out to California and we'll chat with Mr. Doug O'Neill. And we'll talk to him about Lava Man's Hollywood Gold Cup, and we'll find out what's going on with last year's 2-year-old champ, Stevie Wonderboy. And finally, we'll journey to South Florida and talk with Mr. Greg Gilchrist, the conditioner of last year's sprint champion, Lost in the Fog, who starts this afternoon in the Smile Sprint. Along the way, we'll recap 9 stakes, including my partner's personal favorite, featuring 3-year-olds in Southern California. And we've got news on Barbaro, Kieran Fallon, and Jazzo. So all of that and much, much more if you stay with us on this summer Saturday. We're going to kick off a weekend where the temps are going to reach the mid-90s.
You know, my partner has this long hypodermic out. I just want to remind about 4 or 5 years ago in the press box, this guy got up and said Jumpstart was going to win the Kentucky Derby. Go back to the charts and look at Jumpstart. Now, I have, is there a complaint department that I can address to the owner of this show?
No, there's no complaint
Well,
department
all right,
here.
then you staff downstairs, you can hear this, and anybody else who cares. Last year, when I went to the Queen's Plate at Woodbine, 50-year anniversary, I got to read about Secretariat on the front page.
There you go.
Mr. Wilmot, you're going to hear from me this afternoon.
There you go.
Home. It was 107 degrees. No kidding, it was 107 degrees. But at Woodbine, they have for people who are normal and sane and don't actually say or lie that they like this kind of weather, okay, they had sprinkler systems set up and they constantly hit you with cool mist all afternoon. I want one of those things for this office. Or next week I show up in my bathing suit.
I'll get you some cool
Go
mist,
to
all right?
work on that. Oh, I just was never more excited to do a show than I have this morning.
Oh, you're really on the muscle this morning,
Yeah,
huh? You
well,
spent
yeah.
a few days vacationing?
Yeah, but where normal, sane people
Yes.
go north in the summertime.
When's the last time that you and your lovely wife, Gail, vacationed like in the United States?
This is too far south.
In this country.
Schenectady's too far south.
Good Lord. All right. News. We begin the show in a discussion about what's going on with Barbaro, because on Thursday, some very bad news from Dr. Dean Richardson that Barbaro had contracted a severe case of laminitis in his left hind leg, and his chances of survival were poor. Now, laminitis is an inflammation in the laminae of a horse's foot. Now, fortunately, yesterday, after a calm, restful Thursday evening, Barbaro was doing much better. But Dr. Richardson has cautioned everybody that the laminitis is extremely painful. You are taking a look at a thermograph of a horse in the very early stages of laminitis. But Dr. Richardson talked about Barbaro's case being so bad that 80% of the left hoof wall had to be removed on Wednesday. Dr. Richardson said it's as bad a case of laminitis as you can have. And partner, this is not good news
Well,
at
no,
all.
it's not. Although I must say that I'm truly amazed that as we sit here Saturday morning, as far as we know, he's still alive. What an incredible animal, because, you know, the truth is, Mark, when you hear those words, it's very often a death sentence when you hear that in a thoroughbred. And I'm just amazed that Barbaro has gotten through the last 72 hours the way he has. We're all hoping for the best result. But, you know, Dr. Richardson has been very upfront about this from day one. No one should be suddenly taken by surprise after a month and a half of good news that there's bad news. They've been very forthright about this. It's sad news, but I will say to you that I am surprised he's still with us this morning. He is really some kind
He's
of
a
animal.
tough one.
Oh.
Dr. Richardson continued. He said Barbaro looks fine. He's bright and alert, but his condition is very serious. And I'm quoting now from Dr. Richardson, if he, meaning Barbaro, starts acting like he doesn't want to stand on the leg, that's it. That's when we call it quits, close quote. This is very, very serious. It's wonderful news that Barbaro spent a pleasant Friday and apparently was doing a little bit better. But colic, laminitis, those are bad, bad words. Laminitis in the end killed Secretariat, and it's just an awful thing. And, you know, I know a lot of people are staying on top of this story, so we obviously wish Barbaro the very, very best. All right. Leading off our guest lineup this morning is a regular on this program. He joins us live from Belmont Park. He is the Senior Vice President of the New York Racing Association, and he joins us this morning to talk about an upcoming experiment at the spa. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Nader. Bill, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Mark. Good to be back with you.
Hey there, Bill.
Nice to have you, Bill. Bill, the experiment concerns twilight racing at Saratoga. Talk about the particulars to our audience.
Well, I think it's long overdue. I think there's enough of a sample survey, not just in New York here at Belmont Park, but also at Calder in Florida, Arlington in the state of Illinois, and Del Mar in the state of California, where this strategy has been embraced and has been successful. It's been particularly successful here at Belmont. We've had some very good numbers on our Fridays. It brings a new energy and I think a new crowd to racing, and I think we really need to do that. And I think it'll be a very good test at Saratoga, and I think the only thing that can really stop us is if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate. But if we have a good weather day, I think we'll have a great turnout. I think it's a lot of fun, and you know, you go back, I don't know the exact years, but if you go back in Saratoga history, first post used to be 2 or 2:30, and then it went to 1:30. So it's not something new to Saratoga. They have a later post time, but it certainly is in the current landscape, and I think to do it one day of the 36-day season, especially to kick off a holiday weekend, it gives people a chance to come back to Saratoga and say, look, we're going to come back for one last splash, and we can get up there in time to get in Friday's races, enjoy downtown and everything that Saratoga and the community has to offer, and then come back on Saturday and watch the Woodward and the Forego. So I think it's actually a nice time to try it, and then if they decide to stay, you know, for more of Labor Day weekend, great. And if not, they have to get back and get their kids to school and maybe have a holiday barbecue. They can do both things. So I think that the stage is set to really give this a good try, and I think it's going to be very successful. The last 2 years, by the way, the crowds on those Fridays have been 13,000 and change. I think we can do better than that, and I'm optimistic and really excited to see how it plays out.
Bill, did NYRA consult with the horsemen, community leaders, and if so, what kind of response did you get?
Well, we did with community leaders. We reached out to Joe Dalton in advance of making the announcement, and his reaction was good. He thought it was a good idea, you know, for local hotels to try to bring people back into Saratoga, and also for restaurants. I think that, you know, there's a certain part of the population, whether we believe it or not, that may not come to the races, and they can go to dinner on Friday night, and then the second group that'll come from the racetrack will really fill up those restaurants and all the businesses downtown after the races are over at about 7:15. So as far as the horsemen go, I think the horsemen are with us. They've seen it, down here at Belmont, which we've done every Friday after the Belmont Stakes, and they seem to like it. And I think that they like it because it brings out more people to the track and it brings out a greater handle, and so they share in those revenues, and so from that standpoint, I think everybody's on board, and it's not terribly late. I mean, we're done, shortly after 7 o'clock, so it's not much later than, say, a Travers Day.
Bill, it's late in the meet. We know you have a lot of seasonal employees. It'll be September 1st. Any potential problems with staffing size?
No, I mean, it's going to be a little bit better than a typical Friday, but not as big as the Saturday or Sunday of the holiday weekend. So I don't think we'll have any trouble there. And we talked to our people in cleaning and said, look, any problem getting the place cleaned up for Saturday? They said, absolutely not. We'll get the job done. It's very much of a can-do attitude, and we appreciate that. And they're able to turn it around after Travers Day. We have a huge crowd come out, and again, the races don't end until 7 o'clock. So we think we have the team in place, even late in the season, to do it and do it the right way. We've got cooperation from our food and beverage concessionaire that there'll be happy hour specials beginning at 5 o'clock. So, it's just to be here and be part of it down at Belmont on a smaller scale, because the crowds aren't as great. You do pick up a little extra energy on those Fridays, and when you walk through the facility and see the crowd, and anytime you can introduce the sport, especially at Saratoga, to a bigger audience and create new fans, I think we owe it to New York racing and to the industry to try to do that.
Bill, why now? I'm interested. Obviously, NYRA could have done this for a number of years in the past. Does it have anything to do with, is there a correlation with moving the Whitney to that weekend, trying to get a kickstart and bolster that final weekend?
Honestly, Mark, I've wanted to do this for 2 years, and we just couldn't get our own guys to kind of embrace it.
Okay.
And then I went to Steve Dunker and to Charlie Hayward just a short while ago and said, why don't we just try it on the last Friday of the meet? This was after we had a Good Friday on 4th of July weekend here, thinking that, when you're starting off a holiday weekend, maybe, most of the world isn't working a full day on that Friday, or they can get out a little bit earlier. And went in with that argument. And they both said, yeah, let's do it, without hesitation. Let's check it out with who we need to check it out with, and make the application to the State Racing and Wagering Board and move it along, and let's announce it as quickly as we can. So we did that, and I think it's probably the right approach. Rather than try to bite off too much and commit too far, to just try it on one Friday that starts a holiday weekend and see what the reaction is, see how people respond, and we'll know at the box office whether it's whether it was a good move or a bad move. But it's only one of 36 days, and I think that even if it doesn't work, that the negative impact will be minimal, and at least we take the opportunity to find out if our customers embrace it or not.
Bill, you touched upon this briefly earlier. I have an old program at home from August 7th, 1929. My partner was working as an usher that afternoon, and first post was 3 o'clock. Yeah. Now, that afternoon, they only ran 6 races. Bill, as I understand it, and we're talking about September 1st, your last post is about 7:17. Is that cutting it a bit close?
Well, sunset is 7:29. We have a chart here that can give me sunset for any day of the year. It might be if the weather's bad, if it's cloudy, overcast, and wet. Otherwise, we're going to be okay. So, Travers Day, which isn't too far from that Friday, it's 6 days before. Again, we go to 7 o'clock. So it cuts it a little bit close, but we think there's enough of a comfort zone to get through it and do it the right way.
All right, I've got a final question for you, but let me send you over to the gentleman who was ushering that afternoon, and you didn't have to get there until a little bit later.
Bill, he's been so jealous of this for so long that I actually am here in person after all this time. Bill, until a couple of days ago, I was going to let Mark run this whole interview, but I'm going to ask you an off-the-cuff question. which for me has developed in the last couple of days, and it's very, very personal in terms of the way we observe the world. I'm wondering if you have given any thought to the very negative developments that have happened with regards to the situation in the Middle East and these dire predictions of fuel just going through the roof. Has it crossed your mind that something like this could affect Saratoga?
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much we can do about it, but yes, it has. And I think that while it's a negative in terms of how it affects our country, I think that when you look at what Saratoga represents to the state of New York for agriculture and especially for tourism, and you've heard me say it before, but to be voted among or to be named among the top 10 sports venues in the 20th century worldwide by Sports Illustrated, I think it becomes almost a positive in that people who live within, let's say, 3 hours of Saratoga, 3 or 4 hours of Saratoga. We have many people who come down from New England and come up from the city, or even come from Canada. That if you're going to make a trip and you're going to make it count, and maybe airfare is too expensive, and you have to do something for a vacation.
Yeah.
Saratoga is still going to be a very good alternative in that it's a doable trip. Maybe you get there on one tank of gas, and you bring the entire family. So I don't know that we can use it as an excuse going in or something that's a real negative. I think it's hopefully going to be a positive in that if a family is going to make a road trip, that we're still close enough to a huge population that we can still draw big crowds.
Yeah,
but it's such a change. I mean, we all remember the price of gasoline not long ago being 2 digits, not 3, and to see the first digit be a 3 and possibly a 4. It's not easy. So it's something I think we can cope with and we can overcome, because I think that, again, we have a huge population that's within driving distance, reasonable driving distance, and we can still reach out to that audience.
Thank you, Bill, for your comment. Mark?
Bill, thanks so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. Good luck with the experiment, Twilight Racing on September 1st at the Spa, and we'll look forward to seeing you very soon.
Just curious, are you guys for it or against it?
I think it's a very good idea.
Okay.
I think it's an excellent idea, but you made a great point. Mother Nature has to cooperate. Because
it's only a one-shot deal, so hopefully she does on that one day, or we won't get the answer to our question. Mike, how about you?
Well, I like the fact that you brought it up, because it reminds me of something that often people don't realize. Saratoga, as this oldest track in the United States, we are, if I may say, Bill, a progressive relic, and you guys have looked at it that way, so I hope that it does work.
I've done my own independent survey, and for every person who opposes it, 10 people are for it. So I think based on that, we're going to be okay.
Sure.
I think it's a good idea.
Now,
Thanks, Bill.
after talking to you two, it's 10.1 for and 1 against.
All right.
You're helping me.
Okay.
Thank you, Bill. We'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bill.
Take care. Bill Nader,
Bye-bye.
the Senior Vice President of the New York Racing Association. And they needed to bolster that final weekend. They've got the Woodward on Saturday. They've got the Forgo on that Saturday. And now a late afternoon Friday card. And again, I've got old programs at home that show first post at Saratoga to be 3 o'clock. But again, they only ran 6 races.
I personally, I never worried about going all the way back to 4-week meets. I never worried about the so-called slow final week, because I always thought that was part of Saratoga. But it's clear that by rescheduling the Hopeful out there in the traditional spot, putting the Woodward there, and now the Forgo, you've got this slam-bang quartet of Grade 1s to close. It's clear that NYRA is maybe pulling the last stop, and can we really make the final week be like the first 5? And that, to me, interests me more than just the post time per se. I can't see the post time really being that much unless people, maybe, I don't know. I mean, they're going to get the word out. It's not like people aren't going to discover it.
I think you got a shot to get younger people
up
there later in the afternoon.
I see more people.
Yeah.
I don't see, but I'm more interested in the way they've packaged it as opposed to just the post-time thing per se.
Right.
I'll be very interested at the 4-day attendance totals Friday through Monday this year than next year. That's just the way I'm looking at it,
Some other news concerning Saratoga. Last week, when Karen McLaughlin joined us, he talked about the odds of Jazzle skipping the Jim Dandy and going straight to the Travers as being 60-40. Well, he has decided to train the Belmont Stakes hero up to the Travers. No real surprise.
It doesn't surprise me. He does remind me of Birdstone. He's kind of a light-bodied horse that, as Karen said, you know, he can race him fit, not necessarily train him fit. And so we're not surprised at that. And it just actually might make the Travers all the more appealing with that situation.
Unfortunately, it does hurt the Jim Dandy because, you know, knock on wood, if these horses stay sound, we're looking at Bernardini facing John Ward. You know, he's going to have one or two in there. Todd's going to send Bluegrass Cat to the Haskell. You know, may come back with Sun River, but the Jim Dandy
not
could be
AP
a little
Warrior.
bit. Could be a little bit.
Stirwins out of the Prince of Wales.
We will take a look at AP Warrior a little bit later on in the show. That'll be one of the highlights. When we spoke several weeks ago about the group of prospective bidders announced for going after the New York franchise, we were both surprised that we did not see Delaware North. Well, the reason we didn't see Delaware North is because they will be partnering with Empire Racing and. You know,
not a surprising development. You know,
really
we
is not
figured
terribly
that would
surprising.
be part of the landscape. Sure.
Apparently, that entire process has been pushed back 2 weeks because of some illness. So now the bids have to be in by August 29th, and the recommendations will be made by September 29th. And Kieran Fallon, the 6-time European riding champion, has lost his appeal against his suspension from riding in Britain. Fallon talked about being deeply disappointed, and I'm quoting, "I will now take the matter to the High Court and beyond if necessary to reinstate my rights to earn a living in the UK and participate in the sport I love," close quote. This is a huge name involved in a major controversy.
I can't even imagine something like this breaking like this, and it's an incredible story. And you know, I'm speechless. I really am. It's incredible this has happened to this gentleman.
Kieran Fallon was charged as part of an investigation into alleged race fixing. All right, before we get to our first break, let's send you out our address and email. For those of you who would like to correspond with us here at Down the Stretch, here are the ways in which you can do that. Through the United States Postal Service, Down the Stretch, Mark and Mike, Capital District OTB 510 Smith, Schenectady 12305, or electronically at viewermail at capitalotb.com. And a reminder, starting in just a little while at the Albany Teletheater at 711 Central Avenue, Capital OTB's second annual Saratoga Handicapping Expo, sponsored by I Love New York Vacations. Brisnet will be represented, Karakoram Racing, the Daily Racing Forum. I think the museum is going to be represented there. Doors open in just a few minutes at 10:30. It is free of charge and obviously open to the public. So Capital's second annual Saratoga Handicapping Expo, just a few moments away. And we are up to our first break on this mid-July edition of Down the Stretch. Thank you so much for having joined us. When Michael and I return, we'll get our stakes review kicked off by going to Hollywood Park for the Gold Cup. Immediately following that, we will be joined by this morning's second special guest, Mr. Doug O'Neill. As we go to this break, 3-year-olds on the proper surface in New York last weekend in the Lexington. Now, this is one of many NYRA Stakes races negatively affected by bigger purses at other racetracks. I mean, the Colonial Turf Cup and the Virginia Derby, both worth $1 million, have just done a number on the Lexington. The Lexington was worth $107,000, and it drew a field of 5. The 85-cent to the dollar favorite was number 2 After Market, unbeaten in 2 starts, coming into the Lexington for Billy Mott. So we'll take a look at the Lexington going to the break, and Michael and I will be back to kick off our stakes recap right after these messages.
So up front, they're moving right along here. 23-1 was the opening quarter, and it's 2 Sender in front. Carnera second on the inside. Then After Market, who's only 2 lengths from the lead, running along and still in hand in 3rd position. On the outside, Cool Casanova, 7 or 8 back to Crossword, who's still loping along leisurely at the back of the pack. Behind Fast Fractions, 46 and 4 was that half mile into the far turn. Two-sender. Carnera is trying to come through on the inside after that lead. Aftermarket gets a nudge from Cornelio Velasquez, third. Cool Casanova still running along in fourth. Farther back, Crossword. Crossword now starting to come alive as they make their way toward the top of the stretch. He's about 7 lengths from the lead, but really kicking in now. And now the field turns for home. It is Carnera and Two-sender. On the outside, Aftermarket. Top of the stretch, Carnera has cut the corner to the lead. Aftermarket veered in sharply just ahead of Two-sender. In the meantime, Crossword's now third. There's 1 furlong to go. It is Carnera on the outside. Here comes Aftermarket to take the lead. Aftermarket, Carnera, and Crossword. Aftermarket gets there after veering in severely at the top of the stretch, and it's a tight photo for second between Crossword and Carnera.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veach to my left. I'm Mark Asano. Our thanks to Bill Nader for having joined us. You just took a look at the Lexington, where Aftermarket for Billy Mott and Cornelio Velasquez remained undefeated with a 1.5-length victory over Carnera. Crossword third. Look for some of these 3-year-olds to come back on August 7th in the National
NMR,
Museum
yeah.
of Racing and Hall of Fame Stakes. But, partner, there's no doubt that these $1 million races, in this case at Colonial Downs, have had a tremendous negative impact on a race like the Lexington. A little later on in the show, we're going to take a look at the United Nations. That had a dramatic impact on this afternoon's Bowling Green.
Without question.
So, you know,
Without
this
question.
is really tough. Naira's got a wonderful stake schedule, but when you're giving horsemen the opportunities to run for $1 million, and in the case of the UN, $750,000 million, and here in New York it's 100 or 150,000. That is a little bit tough.
You're a turf maven, no doubt about it. Am I correct in recalling the Lexington as 1.25 miles instead of 1.8 miles?
Yes, I believe.
Well? I don't know if it changed this year.
Yes,
I missed it last year.
I think you're
but,
right.
You know.
I do think you're right. All right, let's go and take a look at our feature race of the weekend, the Hollywood Gold Cup, $750,000. It drew a field of 5. The 3-5 favorite, number 1, Lava Man. Watch what happens to him at the break. Under Corey Nakatani, he bobbles at the break. Now this is coming off 2 turf starts, which means his speed is going to be dulled a bit anyways, and then he goes ahead and stumbles at the break, and he loses a bit of position early. Now Lava Man, undefeated in 4 starts this year coming into the Gold Cup. But interestingly, the first 2 on dirt, the last 2 on the proper surface. Now he's going to find himself in 3rd behind a rather conservative early pace. you are going to see the half mile go in 48 and 3. But you are also going to watch Lava Man show his class and his determination by prevailing by the slimmest of noses over number 4 Ace Blue. Now the racing form had Ace Blue with blinkers off. It looks to me, if you look at the bottom of the screen, that number 4 Ace Blue is still got blinkers. But what a finish in the Hollywood Gold Cup, as Lava Man is going to win it by a nose in a very exciting finish.
Total pro comparisons are surfacing with the one and only John Henry. There aren't many of these guys that do this grade 1 thing on both surfaces. He has stumbled before at the start, but in this situation I thought it was very bad being on the inside. And he gives 10 pounds to the winner, winning his 5th straight victory. To me, that's pretty classy stuff indeed. But you know, I just can't wait to see him get back against what other heavyweights there may be in the division. I'll make a comment that seat goal was no factor here whatsoever in this particular event. Here we see him coming on the stretch, just total class and total professionalism. Maybe not a best day effort from Lava Man, but he gets the job done at the right time. And I don't know, I've got Flower Alley and Invaso, or however you want to say it, in him as the trio of leaders in the country at this point amongst the elders. But a repeat in the Hollywood Gold Cup, I think it's only happened one other time.
Well, I mean, at this point, and please understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about at this very moment. This has got to be the leader of the division.
I would
say
he's, I would say he's the leader
he's
in the division.
5 for 5.
I would say that, certainly I would.
And on both surfaces.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I might think that Flower Alley and or Invasor by year's end are going to be ahead of him.
Oh, that's
right
an absolutely
now,
fair statement.
This
There's
is
no question. I would vote without looking if you were on the ballot right now.
2:01 the last half mile, 48 and 3 the last quarter, 25 and 1. But after he stumbled, you know, he ran his 3rd and 4th quarters, the internal fractions, both under 24 seconds flat. He raced out of a detention barn this day, and he laid it all on the line in the Hollywood Gold Cup. Talk about a close finish. Take a look. In a moment, you're going to take a look at the photo. But here's some stats about Lava Man. Just the 2nd horse, and there's the photo, 2nd horse in history to win the Big Cap in the Whittingham the same year. He joined only Native Diver as multiple Hollywood Gold Cup winners. Native Diver won the Gold Cup 3 times, and Lava Man became the first winner of the Big Cap and the Hollywood Gold Cup in the same year since affirmed in 1978. That's pretty good company.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Now, according to Larry Stumis of the San Francisco Chronicle, and I didn't have time to research this, but Larry apparently did. Lava Man is the first horse to win Grade 1 races on both dirt and turf in the same year since Van Landingham in 1985.
That's probably
Again,
there.
I didn't have time to research it.
Yeah.
You know, on the surface, you know, he wasn't beating a whole lot. You know, he looked like he laid over the field and he won by that much. But he's 5 for 5 this year, and considering that he stumbled at the break and lost position, that's a pretty good effort. All right. His trainer is Doug O'Neill. And I got to talk to Doug about Lava Man's performance, about why not only Lava Man, but all of Doug's other horses currently are racing out of a detention barn. And we also got an update on last year's champion 2-year-old Stevie Wonderboy and what's going on with him. Yesterday, I had a chance to sit down and chat with Mr. Doug O'Neill. Doug, talk to our audience, if you would, about Lava Man's effort in the Hollywood Gold Cup, beginning at the break where he stumbled from the inside post.
Yeah, that was just an amazing effort, and you know, we feared him having 2 turf preps before the Gold Cup. We love the spacing, but we feared it might dull his natural speed a little bit, and I think it really was exaggerated even more, you know, being stumbling like that, and be lying if I said it didn't strike a fear in me that we might be in trouble. But Corey did a great job, didn't panic, and made a bad situation good right away.
Doug, I'm glad you brought that up because certainly I was, and I know a lot of people were quite surprised. Here a half mile goes in 48-3, and he's several lengths off it. Now, he looked like he was traveling nicely, but did that catch you off guard that he was that far off a 48-3 half?
Yes. The one nice thing of Lava Man is he's got the speed to run you off your feet and the stamina to keep going, and never really have thought of him as a horse that would track off a 48 and change pace on the dirt. So just every race is just a little bit more amazing than the one before, and again, the owners and I are just truly blessed to be part of this horse, and just hope this continues for a long time.
Doug, his other 4 victories this year, including the big cap, were all by fairly comfortable margins. But here in the Gold Cup, I mean, he looked like he laid it all on the line. Did you get to the bottom of him here?
I don't think so. The horse that ran second ran a dynamite race, but was carrying 11 pounds less than us. And when you get laboring late, which we were definitely, we ran a huge, I think it was the third quarter of the race, or one of those quarters right around the bend there. He went sub 23, and it definitely took its toll the last eighth of a mile. And he won on sheer hard. And was he tired after the race? Yes. Did he leave some grain the first couple nights? Yeah. But he's already bouncing back, and we got ample time between now and the next goal, which is the Pacific Classic. So we're pretty excited where we are.
Doug, Lava Man in the Hollywood Gold Cup raced from a detention barn. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to explain that situation to our audience. But how do you think that might have affected him?
I definitely think it, he's such an amazing horse that you could probably tie him to a tree 3 or 4 days for the race, and he'd still come over there and run his best race. But, changing stalls 24 hours for the race is, none of them are overly confident doing that. And I, as a trainer, don't like that, and we don't have our guys living in the barn he was in, and so a little awkward, little bit of a challenge, but he was up to it, and again, it turned out to be a non-issue.
Doug, if you would, please explain to our audience why Lava Man in the Gold Cup and your other horses at present are racing out of a detention barn.
Well, they've got a rule here that they installed a couple years ago that we're trying to get changed, but basically to eliminate milkshake in horses, they have a test that they use that if you go over if your TCO2 reads higher than 37, they deem you must have milkshake the horse, and they put you in a 30-day detention barn. And I had a 50-to-1 shot that we did not milkshake. We don't milkshake any of the horses here, but he showed a milkshake positive. So that right now is in litigation, and we're fighting it. But just common sense, a 50-to-1 shot to run last, it doesn't make any sense. But we're playing by the rules, and hopefully we can change them as more information comes forward.
Doug, Lava Man ended 2005 really way off form. Poor efforts in both the Jockey Club Gold Cup as well as the Japan Cup. What happened at the conclusion of last year?
Well, we shipped into New York. The only travel plans we get were 2 days out, and he just never really settled in. He got worked up in the paddock, and he bled in the race, which, knock on wood, he's never bled before then, and he hasn't bled since then. So we just put a line through that, and then we shipped him to Japan 2 weeks out, and he settled in beautifully and was training fine. And about a week before the race, he started getting some feet problems. And the track over there in Japan, if they don't get rain, is just a real deep, mainly sand type of surface, and just kind of has a sandpaper effect on horses' feet. And if you're used to it, your horses, kind of their feet get toughened to it, and it just really affected Lava Man's frogs of his front feet, and just got real foot tender. And we basically, the last week before the Japan Cup, it was just trying to toughen up the feet, back off his training a little bit, and just get him there healthy and not take any chances. And I think that took its toll on his performance big time.
Well, he's come back big time this year, perfect in 5 starts, but a bit of an unusual schedule in the respect that he wins the first 2 starts of the year, including the big cap on dirt, and then you move him for his next 2 starts to grass. Why was that, Doug?
Well, got to credit Steve Kenley with a couple things. One, with the claiming of Lava Man, and 2, with, he's kind of the managing partner of Lava Man, and Steve and I and Jason Wood, another partner of the horse, talked at length about a perfect way to get Lava Man back to the Gold Cup and try to defend it. And we just like the spacing better with the turf races, and thought it was a way to kind of keep him fresh, and just not that he's had any foot issues since Japan, but a little bit kinder on his feet as well. And I mean, it turned out absolutely perfect. Knock on wood, he's a fresh, sound horse who's, 5 for 5 or 6 for 6, whatever he is this year, and you would never know. He doesn't show any signs of a tired horse. So it's working out perfect.
Doug, do you feel as though Lava Man can be as productive shipping and racing outside of California as he has been in his home state?
Definitely. I think, again, Japan showed, it took him a few days, but by about the 4th, 5th day, he was settled right in. He was eating great, full of energy, and the track just took its toll on him. But, I think if we're so lucky to where we can ship to Churchill Downs as the year rolls around here, at the end of the year rolls around, as long as we ship early enough, I think we'll be in great shape, and we're looking forward to that opportunity if we get so lucky.
So the Breeders' Cup Classic is his year-end goal.
That's the target we got. It's a lofty one, but we think he's up to it if he maintains his current form and his current health.
Then, Doug, at this point, what's the best way for you to get him from where you are now to the Breeders' Cup Classic? Which races will you use?
Well, if all goes well, the Pacific Classic, which is in our own backyard, it's a weight for age race, so we won't have to be carrying anything crazy weight-wise. And then if we get lucky and run well there and come out of it good, then possibly a race, maybe the Jockey Club Gold Cup, which we would have different travel plans if we were to do that, or a prep at Oak Tree, which there's a turf prep and a dirt prep, and I think one of them, they might both be handicaps, which is a little bit scary. So just kind of have to play it by ear, but again, if he maintains his fitness and his health, we're going to get him there one way or the other.
Yeah, why don't you come east, Doug? Because the Gold Cup is weight for age,
Yep.
where the Goodwood has always been a handicap, so we'd like to see him back here east.
There's a possibility, and again, last year we weren't that adamant about the travel plans have to be perfect, and this year, if we were to do that, we would be adamant that we'd have to get him there a week or 10 days earlier, or we'd be wasting time.
Doug, before I let you go, I'd love for you to update our audience on the status of last year's champion, 2-year-old male, Stevie Wonderboy. What's going on with the champ?
He looks absolutely awesome. You would never know which ankle was traumatized, and got to credit Dr. Ted Simpson, who's one of our vets and surgeons out here, and just did a fantastic job with him. And Don Rhodes out at Merv Griffin's ranch did all the post-stop stuff, and of course looks unbelievable, and we're real excited about him getting back to the races, probably towards October, November, with the Stroop Series of Santa Anita being the goal right now.
Well, that sounds wonderful. I understand, Doug, you've got a pretty nice 2-year-old in the barn this year by the name of Cobalt Blue. Talk to our audience about him for a moment, if you would.
Some scary similarities to Stevie Wonderboy. He's owned by Merv Griffin, big, tall, long-striding chestnut. He won. Actually, Stevie didn't even win first time out, but Cobalt Blue won first time out, coming off the pace, going 5/8 of a mile, and he actually a horse that wants to go a mile in 5/8, not 5/8. So he seems like a very special colt, and Merv and I have talked a few times of what are the odds? It'd be a zillion to one to have it back-to-back years, but we're hoping he's that kind of horse.
Well, we'll look forward. I assume the, mid-season goal would be the Del Mar Futurity?
Definitely. That's kind of actually, I think we got maybe an allowance prep at Del Mar if all works out well, and then the Futurity is the mid-season goal.
Well, we'll keep our eyes out for Cobalt Blue, and we'll certainly look forward to the return of Stevie Wonderboy. And Doug, congratulations on the Gold Cup victory with Lava Man. If I'm not mistaken, this makes 3 of the last 5 Hollywood Gold Cups for the Doug O'Neill barn.
Wow, that's scary.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff.
That's the good stuff. Yeah,
Well,
we love this race.
Doug, congratulations. Great job. Thanks so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch, and all the best.
Have a great day. You too. Bye-bye.
Doug O'Neill, ladies and gentlemen, the conditioner of Hollywood Gold Cup hero, Lava Man. So, Stevie Wonderboy looking good on the way back. Merv Griffin's got another exciting 2-year-old in Cobalt Blue, and Lava Man, right now as we speak, the leading contender for Horse of the Year. So things going pretty well for Doug O'Neill. All right, up next, the Swap Stakes. California-based 3-year-olds for $350,000 drew a field of 4. Several weeks ago, I called the California-based group of 3-year-olds dramatically overrated. My partner did not agree with me that day. In a moment, we're going to take a look at the swaps. Do you now agree with me that they're dramatically overrated?
Am I supposed to talk now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, a number of things here interested me during the running of the race, and I don't know if Mark took the time to tape this because this is still one of my favorite 3-year-olds of the year in a race that sometimes is a preview of the Haskell or the Travers. But I was taken by the announcer's description of AP Warrior traveling more comfortably than Point Determined. I never ever thought that was the case.
And by the way, that's him tossing the anchor out, number 1.
There's no question about that. And what happened here in the swaps is an old friend of ours named Bruce Headley caught us looking in the wrong direction again with Arson Squad, who you see rattling here on the outside. I was caught looking the other way. I thought my guy was going to turn the tables on Point Determined. Instead, Bruce Headley got this guy who's been showing little hints of good form to the wire in the swaps, and I looked back and he beat a horse going short named Stoops, who was a fairly well-regarded sprinter indeed. So congratulations to him. I have no idea what's wrong with AP Warrior. Owen Hardy maybe didn't. John Sheriffs I thought would. So we'll take them off the board, and I will concede to my partner by saying that after we were all captivated by the brilliance of the unbeaten Brother Derek at the start of the year, this group does not look very well. I must concede that. As far as AP Warrior, John, I probably won't see you in person this summer at Saratoga unless it's for another matter. Does that make you happy?
Did
I do okay?
You know, yeah, you did fine.
Okay.
It's fair to say, think about it. Point Determined, AP Warrior, Bob and John, Cause to Believe. I'm not ready to put Brother Derek in that category quite yet.
Oh, no, of course.
But I think it's pretty safe to say, to some degree, quite overrated.
Yeah, it was.
All right.
Yeah.
We are up to our next break on this morning's July 15th edition of Down the Stretch. Thank you so much for having joined us. When Michael and I return, we are going to take a look at a half dozen more stakes, including the return of 2 very special horses from 2005 making their 2006 debut. So all of that and much, much more coming up right after these messages.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. AP Warrior to my left. I'm Mark Asano, and
Maybe I'll challenge him to a race.
you know, you got a shot.
I got
you
a
really
shot.
do have a shot.
25 to 1.
You know, when you get beat 9 lengths in a 4-horse field, and the 4th horse was one of those Jim McIngvale maiden claimers that has 0 chance. That I mean, John Sherriss must be scratching his head.
No question. No
All
doubt.
right. We begin this segment of our stakes recap by going to the new turf course, new redesigned turf course at Monmouth Park for the Grade 1 United Nations, $750,000 in a good competitive field. The favorite, number 3, Relaxed Gesture, beaten ahead by Cacique in the Manhattan in last. He was the $1.90 to $1 favorite. Number 1, English Channel. I think he's the best marathon grass horse in America, despite his 4th place finish when he was ranked in the Manhattan. I don't understand why he was such a short price in here. He was the 240 to 1 second choice. Number 5, Cacique, who was the winner of the Manhattan as the favorite, was 340 to 1. I can't figure it out. Now, the early pace, as expected, set by the Rabbit, shake the bank. 24-1, 47-3, and 1:11 4/5. And English Channel going to take advantage of the beneficial inside post. He's going to sit a very nice inside-out trip. He's going to collar Cacique on the final turn, and he's going to go on to a half-length victory over that rival. Relaxed Gesture going to finish a no-factor 3rd in here. Now, the key to English Channel has always been, will he settle? Well, he didn't do that early. He was quite rank early. But when Johnny V finally got him to settle a bit, and he's 4th on the fence right now, and he finally agrees to settle down, that is the key to this racehorse. Partner, I really think he's America's best long-distance runner.
I know you like him a lot, and this business, all I could think of as they were going through the first, say, 5/8 of this race was English Channel is telling JR, what are you doing this to me for? I'm so much better than these guys. And frequently we see a horse get strangled to death and it doesn't work out. This move we're about to see, Splitting Horse, is really wonderful. And to me, it's underscored by the fact, here he goes right here coming out of the tree. And here, it's underscored by the fact that this is, and again, I can't make a comparison until Breeders' Cup Day, but we on the East Coast have been treated to a couple of very good races with the cream of the crop here, and he is simply better than this bunch today in a very, very fine performance, going 1 3/8 here. Mark thinks he'll go further. I do too. Don't know where he's going to go next. But I guess I was most intrigued by watching him just not want to take orders in the first half of the mile. And I just think in his mind, it's like, I was really, really angry about the way things turned out in the Manhattan. I'm going to settle a score today, and he's very strong today.
1 3/8 over a good turf course, 2 minutes 13 1/5. You will likely see the better horses in the UN go to the Arlington Million.
Okay.
You're likely to see the second level horses go to the Sword Dancer. Keep something in mind. Better Talk Now was 0 factor. He finished 5th. He came out of the Dixie where he and Dreadnought, I could never figure this out, beat Artie Schiller that day. Dreadnought hasn't run a jump since that race. Better Talk Now, no factor against the top level company. So the Dixie, really not very good. But right now, in my opinion, English Channel, Cacique, Relaxed Gesture, to a lesser degree, Gray Swallow, those are the better distance grass horses in America.
And a pretty good bargain at $50,000 at the sale ring, too, English Channel. How about that?
How about that? You know?
I think he's close to or over $2 million at this point, so.
All right, next up, the Grade 1 Prioress for 3-year-old fillies at Belmont Park in a terrific betting race where number 5, Capote's Crown, from the red-hot Kieran McLaughlin barn, was the $1.75 to the $1 favorite, but she came up empty, finishing 7th of 8. Win McCool had the beneficial outside post, a post where you can rate from. You can sit off horses. But Win McCool in the MIG never took advantage of the outside post. Here she's going to go up for the lead in 21-4 and 44-1. In my opinion, that's a waste of a tactical advantage. She will be prompted from the inside by number 2, Misty Rosette. Now the fast fractions set it up for the closers and the long shots, as number 4, Wildcat Betty B would run down number 3, Wild Gams late to score by a neck, an exciting renewal of the Priors.
I like Twin McCool quite a bit. She got a little bit of my money last week. I was all excited about, I think we had an interview with Bobby, and it was the right post to be in. Clearly, she's got talent. She showed that. But refresh me if I missed this. And I seem to recall that Bobby was not complimentary of Mig's previous ride on her. Did he say that during the interview in some fashion?
Not the immediate previous ride,
okay,
but the ride in
Nassau County.
Yes.
That was the one.
Yes.
So sorry that it happened, but it was a competitive renewal. Larry Jones, I believe, has another contender for the test, does he not?
Hello Liberty,
That's
right?
the one,
Yes.
Hello Liberty,
Yes.
who ran so well in the first leg of the Philly Triple. So he's got 2 good ones coming to Saratoga. Congratulations, Wildcat Betty.
Right now, Larry Jones leaning toward the test with Hello Liberty.
Yeah.
But if something should happen
Yeah.
to that filly, you know, this is a pretty good backup
I
to
really
have.
agree.
And Mario Pino, nice job in winning the Prioress. Now, midweek, Wednesday at Belmont Park, a stakes restricted for the state breds, the Muggatee, but it marked the return of last year's Whitney Stakes hero, Commentator, and he is number 2 in here. He is 1-9 versus 3, well, seemingly overmatched rivals. But this is his first start since re-aggravating that shin injury in the 2005 Woodward. Nick Zito had him up here at Saratoga and over the Oklahoma training facility. He turned in some very solid workouts. Now here, with Abar Koa up, in spite of the fact that he's very fast and he's very fresh, he relaxed nicely under Koa. 22, 44-4. He's going to win it by 6 1/4. What a wonderful return for Commentator. That's the good news. The bad news, he's not going to wheel back for a defense of the win.
No, he won't try that over. I'm quite sure of that at this point. And our congratulations to Nick on just a really tremendous training job. It's got to be frustrating as all get out to deal with sore shins of all things, in an older horse no less. But being at the Oklahoma certainly does good things for horses, and no one's benefited better than Nick. I love to see this guy come back. He's a wonderful, wonderful New York bred. The bad news is the Whitney. The good news is somewhat possible the final weekend. He can choose between the Forego or the Woodward. That's as far
right.
as this guy.
That's right.
And he's a proven commodity at 2 turns at Saratoga. He beat Horse of the Year St. Liam in the Whitney last year. Nice job all around. Fine animal. You got PPs there. Is he 8 for 10 lifetime?
Yes.
Yeah, there
yes,
he is. Yeah.
He is 8 for 10 lifetime, and his only bad races are when he re-aggravates that shin injury.
Yeah.
So if Nicky can keep him healthy, this is one serious racehorse.
I agree.
I mean, he beat St. Liam on the square last year.
He sure did.
Straight up into Whitney.
Yep.
He is a wonderful racehorse. So that was the return of Commentator. Yesterday at Belmont, they ran the Capades, a minor stakes race, which marked the return of a fine turf filly, Malor Ayinda. She is number 4. She is 5th on the fence. This is her first start since injuring herself in last year's Flower Bowl. Now, I have always felt that this was a very nice turf filly, but at the same time, I'm prepared to say that last year was slightly disappointing. She was 2nd in the American Oaks behind that Japanese monster, Cesario, and then she was a close 3rd in the Beverly D, but no real excuse, little bit of traffic trouble. Bobby Franco expecting a very big year from Malor Ayinda as a 4-year-old. Sis City is in front. She's about to give it up. 24-4, 49, 113. The rail's out 18 feet. Johnny V going to swing Malor Ayinda to the outside, and she's going to win by a handy length over Bright Abundance and the Tactics of Dance a nice comeback.
Yeah, the Bobby Frankel view of the world. This reminds me a lot of a potential Ghost Zapper campaign. He was very forward in saying, look, it all happens in the second half of the year for this group here.
Right.
So we're going to have a campaign structured upon 3 or 4 races after this. If she's that good, she may do, in fact, what he'd like is to win out, because I felt, along with Mark, about a little more than a year ago at this time, how brilliant she looked. I think it might have been the Sands Point or something in New York that she might have won, that she did very well. And so, you know, no surprises there. Good, solid, comfortable return.
Up to this point, she has been brilliant up to 9 furlongs.
Fair point.
She's gotten beyond 9 and
yeah.
doesn't have that same punch. Now, this is just an educated guess, folks. We haven't had a chance to talk to Bobby since yesterday's race. I'm thinking if he likes where he has Malorienda, he'll go to the Beverly D.
Okay.
If he doesn't have her quite right, we might get her for the Diana.
The Diana, okay.
I hate to, because I love the Diana. I hate to use it as, I don't mean to refer to it as a second-level race, but that's my feeling about what he'll do with Malorienda. All right, let's go to Churchill Downs. Not their closing weekend anymore. That's this weekend. But a pair of stakes for the 2-year-olds, and we will begin with the males in the Bashford Manor. Pay attention to number 8, Circular Quay, an impressive maiden winner in his debut in last, and he was sent off the 6-5 favorite. Now, folks, we start 2-year-olds racing so early in the year that more times than not, baby races are won by speed horses. It's speed, speed, speed.
Yes, indeed.
That's what the American game is with 2-year-olds nowadays. Whoever is more precocious has a huge advantage early. But Circular Quay, a son of Thunder Gulch out of Circle of Life, rallied to break his maiden in last, and in here will rally to win the Bashford Manor going away by a length and a quarter over number 2 Shermanesque for Todd Pletcher and Rafael Bejarano. Partner, and ladies and gentlemen, it was the way he did it, which was impressive to me.
You're right. No, this is both unusual and exciting at the same time in 2-year-old racing to see it happen this way. And you're going to see a very, very nice inside late move here in the moment. This is really something for a 2-year-old. He's behind a wall of 4 horses. He's going to get there. We've been talking a lot about New York breds today. Well, he's not one. He's got a heck of a pedigree. Circle of Life was a New York bred winner of the Spinaway, as a matter of fact. This is a very nice, I haven't done the whole thing. Well, I made a prediction that Todd would get his first classic this year. We're a long way out from next year, but this guy has the paperwork to get it done. And I haven't done it all the way. This is a nice animal.
Because when I saw Circle of Life on the bottom,
it kind of caught you for a minute.
Yes, it did. Yeah. And here he is again making the inside run under Rafael Bejarano. Minute 9 4/5 with Churchill closing. Certainly, if he's sound and healthy, we're going to see Circular Quay at Saratoga. Probably not likely for the second day feature, the Sanford, but we'll likely see him down the road. But I like that performance. That was quite nice. Also at Churchill, 2-year-old fillies started in the debutante, a field of only 6. 2 of them took all the money. Number 7, Chagall, who was the $1.10 to the $1 favorite off a maiden win in last. And number 1, Rich Woman, 2 for 2, including the Cinderella Stakes at Hollywood in last. She was the 8-5 second choice. Now, this would develop into a battle between the 2 favorites. And watch number 1, Rich Woman. She's going to find some traffic early on. Sean's going to have to take a hold of her here and going into the far turn. But in spite of that, Rich Woman is going to run a record to a perfect 3 for 3 by outgaming Chagall to win the debutante by a neck for Steve Asmussen and Sean Bridgman. Interesting thing here, she shipped from Kentucky to California to win the Cinderella. Now she ships back to Kentucky and wins the debutante. That's not too shabby.
I really agree. That's exactly what I was going to say, that this is a really interesting progression, 4.5, 5.5, and 6. But most intriguing that Keeneland, Hollywood, Churchill, 6 furlongs, okay. A lot of courage here. Don't know where we'll see her next. This was possibly, I don't know, Mark, one of Steve Asmussen's last days before he surrendered his life. Am I right? He was July 9 or 10 before he left.
Yes.
So they'll last under his until next January, but nice, gritty performance here.
But we've got a couple of daughters of successful appeal battling it out. Chagall inside, Rich Woman outside, who will prevail by a neck. You know, here we're going to watch it again, but a couple of times Sean had to take a light hold of her when looking for racing room, and when a Todd Pletcher trainee gets away from you, more times than not, you don't run them down.
Yeah, they're right.
But this
They're
Rich
ready to
Woman,
go,
she is a very nice filly. You've got to think that we're going to see both of them at the upcoming Spa
Yeah, I
meet,
do think
without
yes.
question.
Yep.
But here's Rich Woman now 3 for 3 in her career with this victory in Churchill's debutante. And as they gallop around the first turn, we are up to our final break on this morning's mid-July edition of Down the Stretch, but much more to come. When Michael and I return, our final 2 guests of the morning will go to South Florida. How warm do you think it is in South Florida?
I can imagine.
It's going to be 90 or 95 here.
Go ahead.
We'll be joined by Mr. Greg Gilchrist, the trainer of last year's sprint champion Lost in the Fog. And Lost in the Fog will start later on this afternoon in the Smile Sprint. Then we'll come back here to New York and we'll chat with Mr. Toby Sheets, the New York assistant to Steve Asmussen. Tomorrow, Toby will start. I think I can make a pretty strong case for this. The most improved horse of 2006.
I think so.
That being
Yeah.
a new in the Tom Fool. So those 2 interviews coming up right after these messages.
This is the OTB Television Network.
Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. Mike Veets to my left. I'm Mark Casano. Getting a little hot in the studio, huh, partner?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Our next guest this morning. He conditions the reigning sprint champion Lost in the Fog, who will start later this afternoon in Calder's wonderful Summit of Speed Day in the Smile
Yes.
Sprint. He joins us live via telephone from South Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program, Mr. Greg Gilchrist. Greg, welcome back to Down the Stretch.
Well, thank you, Mark. I got to tell you, it's far from cold down here.
Oh, thanks, Greg. That's what I needed to hear.
Well, Greg, the big question, how's Lost in the Fog doing coming up to this afternoon's Smile Sprint?
Well, he's doing fine, Mark. I mean, you know, we're fighting a few more things this year. That you know, they're not major, but you know, just a little more wear and tear on the body when they run as hard as he does, and you know, in that kind of competition, you know, you tend to get a few aches and pains, but it's nothing that's major, and we'll be headed over there later this afternoon. Hope we can make it work again.
Greg, you shipped into Calder quite early. I believe you got there last Saturday. Now, was this by design, and is this kind of the same schedule you used when you raced at Calder last year?
You know, I looked that up, I just went back through my charts from last year because I couldn't really remember, if I came in on top of the race or 3 or 4 days or a week or whatever it was. And it, in fact, was a week last year that we came back here. The only difference is we didn't have a hurricane today and have to postpone the races until tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. Now that you mention it, I do recall that. Greg, in a moment, our audience is going to take a look at Lost in the Fog's last start, his victory in the Aristides. If you would, talk about this performance, please.
Well, I thought it was a real good race for him. When I ran him out home earlier in the year, I actually hadn't tightened the screws on him. I mentioned to a couple people that I told him I didn't think it would be his best race of the year. So he come up a little short in that race, and certainly with that race in him, when we went back to Churchill, it showed that he'd had an out, and he broke very good that day and went to the lead for about 1/8 of a mile. And I can't remember who the other horse was, but there's a horse that they were sending pretty hard. And Russell just kind of let him go. And he laid back second, third, right in there. And when they went into the turn, made his move. And a very nice horse came to him, turning for home. In fact, it's in here today again. It's at Kelly's Landing. But we were good enough to hold him off that day.
Greg, if Lost in the Fog had been beaten in the Aristides, would you and Mr. Alio have retired him?
We had that conversation before that race, and I would say this, it would be a possibility. It would have probably depended on what kind of beaten he was, whether he just didn't run well and ran a bad fifth, or if it was a bob of the head at the wire and there was a reason if he got left in the gate or whatever. But certainly you don't want to string together a bunch of bad races and devalue the horse as far as his stud career.
Greg, let's have you give the audience a little comparison here. I know you mentioned earlier there's some aches and pains this year more so than last year, but I'd like you to talk to the audience about a comparison. Where is Lost in the Fog now, ability-wise, versus, midway through his 3-year-old season?
Well, I think he's just as good a horse as he ever was. There became, I don't know if you want to call it a stigma or what. Lost in the Fog was just expected to win every time he went over there. And in fact, he was for a long time. But I think kind of a lot of the luster came off at the Breeders' Cup. And then certainly when he came back in the first out of the year, he got beat. So that really does not have anything to do with the comparison of him this year to last year, though. I think he's just as good a horse as he ever was. And, the thing about that, you do have to go out and prove that on the racetrack. The thing that really concerns me a lot today is we're carrying a lot of weight. And not so much that I think we carried 24 the last time, but, we're carrying 25 today, and I believe it's 8 or 9 pounds back to the second high weight in the race. So that's a big concern to me, I'll tell you that.
Greg, with the aches and pains, what are you expecting this afternoon from Lost in the Fog?
Well, he's certainly ready to go. He's had the 2 races in him now. I think that we will approach this race just like all of them. We're going to let him break. We're going to look around and see what everybody else is doing. If we are on the lead, that's great. If we have to share the lead or take back a little bit, that will be fine too. He's certainly not he won't be a foreigner to any of those situations. So, Russell Bays is riding him, and Russell certainly knows him as well as anyone. The one thing that I would say, this is the 3rd time that I've participated in the Summer Speed, and it is exactly what it said. It is full of speed horses, and it's not very often that you see horses come from way back in these races and win. So I think it's imperative that you stay up near, the front part of the race.
Greg, I know you don't like to look past the task at hand or look too far ahead, but with Saratoga right around the corner, and if I didn't ask you this question, part of our audience would want to string me up. If he runs well today and comes out of it well, what are the chances you come back to Saratoga for the Forgo?
I'd say they'd be very good. That's a race that Mr. Alio and I have discussed. And again, it would almost be following the pattern of last year.
Yeah.
It's a racetrack that he ran well on. He seemed to be very well at ease up there. So I would think if he runs well today, that, I would say this right now. If he runs well today, I think there'd be a better than 50-50 chance that you would probably see him in the Forgo.
Good. And Greg, you'll be busy this afternoon also with your nice 3-year-old filly, Victorina, coming off a third in Churchill's Dogwood Stakes and last. She's in the Azalea this afternoon. How's she look?
She's doing well. She's another one that we've moved around a little bit this year. We had her at Hawthorne once, and then actually she wound up at Churchill. I was wanting to stretch her out, and it just so happened that the Dogwood ran the same day as the Aristides there at Churchill. So we just put her on the plane with him, and she went back and performed well. That was a one-turn mile. We're dropping back to 6 furlongs today, but we freshened her pretty good, and it's been 6 weeks in between, so I'm looking for her to run pretty darn well.
Well, Greg, as always, we appreciate your participation. We've had you on the show a number of times, and I know our audience always enjoys hearing from you. All the best this afternoon with Victorina and the Azalea, and with the Champ and the Smile. I hope they run well for you, come out of the race well, and we are looking forward to seeing you at Saratoga.
Just coming to Saratoga makes me want to win harder here today, I can tell you that.
Hey,
you
good
guys
luck,
are real
Greg.
nice to us up there.
Well, Greg, go get them this
Terrific.
afternoon, and we'll look forward to talking with you again very, very soon.
Thank you very much.
Greg Gilchrist, ladies and gentlemen, the trainer of Lost in the Fog. That is a wonderful sprint race today. Lost in the Fog, and I don't have the PPs right in front of me,
Yeah.
but I think is drawn very nicely towards the outside. There's one horse in there who I have rarely guessed right about. I think it's very accurate to say, he's very inconsistent. On his best, he can race with most any sprinter around.
Okay.
But when he's bad, he's dreadful. He's now in the Marty Wolfson barn, and I think a lot of Marty,
Yes.
and that's Pomeroy.
Oh yes.
If
that's
he's
right.
on
Yeah.
his
Oh,
game,
yeah.
if he's on his
Good
game,
point.
he can be dangerous
Yes,
this afternoon.
he sure can be dangerous. There's no doubt about that, and he can withstand a prolonged battle up front because he did very well at Saratoga. I tell you, I really enjoy listening to Greg. I mean, he is about as candid as you ever get. He was very upfront. He told you folks, I'm dealing with some infirmities. I'm dealing with issues. And Mark's question about, the possibility if a champion starts a losing streak, will I let go of it? So I thought that was very interesting, and I do hope we get to see him at Saratoga again next year. That's going to mean a lot to see him in person. Great interview.
I said last year, I never felt he was a great sprinter. I thought he was one of the best managed horses. They chose their spots carefully.
Yeah.
Until late in the year, they found restricted 3-year-old races.
Yeah.
Well, now he's in against the older horses. But the thing about Lost in the Fog is he doesn't have to be in front.
Yeah.
You saw the Aristides. There's going to be so much speed in there today, but if he breaks alertly, which he certainly almost always does, Russell can put him in position. I think he's strictly the one to beat. I think he's going to run well again today. But this Pomeroy, if you look at his past performances, it's dramatic, good and bad.
His good day.
But when he's on his good day, he can be dangerous.
I agree.
Unfortunately, we have gotten no answer at the Steve Asmussen barn in New York concerning his assistant, the New York assistant, Toby Sheets. Toby was going to be our final guest this morning. Tomorrow in New York, the Tom Fool, 7/8 of a mile. It drew Silver Train,
Oh, boy.
last year's Breeders' Cup sprint hero, and Rick Dutrow has told you on this show, and I'm sure you've read it elsewhere, that Belmont Park is Silver Train's favorite
I'd say it
racetrack
is. I'd
by
say
far.
it is.
But Toby Sheets trains anew, who was claimed late last year. You know, he couldn't beat 25 and 35 claimers.
Yep.
Not only he couldn't beat them, he didn't even come close. They claimed him, they gelded him, and since that time, he's 4 for 4,
Yeah.
including a pair of stakes. And you know what, Dan? Why don't we take a look at a piece of the True North, his last race, since we've got a little time here.
Sure.
Now he's got the extreme outside post in here. He's racing against a very nice Jimmy Jerkins trainee, Tiger. And I mean, under Alan Garcia, he beat the gate, he speed popped him, and he was never in trouble. Partner, I said twice earlier in the show,
Yeah.
I can make a strong case that he is the most improved horse going from 2005 to 2006.
I would say they probably picked him up with the idea of a winter campaign. You'll see that frequently, a lot of late season claims to get ready for the inner dirt track. And if we had gotten Toby on, one of the things I was going to ask him about this race was, did you expect him to basically take this pretty good field by the throat and thrash them?
That's right.
You know, in your stakes debut. And he did. He did just that, and it's really quite a story. And I was hoping that if we got the chance to speak with him, that we'd ask him if it goes well today. In what is essentially almost a Grade 1 field, would you construct a Grade 1 campaign that would take you to Saratoga for the Forego as well, and certainly the Vosburg back at Belmont Park, because he too obviously likes it. I was licking my chops at this particular interview to see him talk about it, because this is going to be a nice race this afternoon with a known Belmont factor, Silver Train, the reigning champion. So
now, the 7/8 of a mile tomorrow
was a
bit of
question.
a question
Was
mark.
a question.
Certainly.
Yes.
You've got Silver Train to contend with. There's a very interesting horse in here by the name of Warfront, who I watched very carefully at Gulfstream Park this winter. And he got a couple of bad breaks drawn inside speed, a little bit of sneaky, tough trips. Well, he comes back tomorrow. You've got the PPs. He hasn't raced since when?
He's been away since Feb 5. It's Alan Jerkins. He is, as they say, training up a storm. I actually went with him when he went long last year in the Discovery, and that didn't pan out. But he's sitting on potentially a big effort today. And we were discussing off air earlier in the show how we both like him. And I do.
So that could be an interesting race.
Or tomorrow, pardon me.
Very sorry that we weren't able to get you, Toby Sheets. Unfortunately, these fellas are busy. Live television doesn't happen very often with us,
that's
fortunately.
Okay.
But unfortunately, not able to get Toby this morning. A couple of things before we leave you this morning. Tomorrow, Sunday, Hollywood Park, first race, 6.5 furlong. I think it's an optional claimer. The return of Declan's Moon. First start since March 5, 2005. Puts his unbeaten record of 5 for 5 on the line for Ron Ellis. It'll be nice to see him come
How
back.
exciting must Ron Ellis be about this? Let's hope it's all together. In case you forgot, he's still unbeaten, champ of 2 years ago.
Right.
So,
That's right. And you heard earlier, if you did hear the interview I did with Doug O'Neill, last year's champion 2-year-old Stevie Wonderboy looks terrific.
Good.
Going to point him to the series, the Strube series, which
Okay.
begins with a
Okay.
Malibu
Okay.
the day after Christmas. Going to leave you with this. I was sent this article from Dave Joseph in the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale about an interesting occurrence at Pompano Park in South Florida. And many times when I visit South Florida on vacation, I don't go north, I go south. I have a friend who likes harness racing. We go to Pompano. There was a race last Monday night at Pompano Park in which the 3-to-1 second choice, there was an odds-on favorite in the race. 3-to-1 second choice wins the race, pays $8 and change.
Okay.
The horse who runs second was 103-to-1. So you've got a 3-to-1 shot on top of a 103-to-1 shot. They beat the odds-on favorite. What do you think the exacta came back?
Well, you know this stuff, so I I don't know.
What do you
I
think the
mean,
exacta
what
came
was
back?
it? I don't know.
How about $25?
Oh, please. Oh, please.
And of course, an investigation
Oh,
was launched
please.
immediately. So interesting happenings at Pompano Park. Let's give you our email address. If you'd like to correspond with us here at Down the Stretch, here are the ways in which you can do that. Through the United States Postal Service, Down the Stretch, Mark and Mike, Capital District OTB, 510 Smith, Schenectady, 12305, or electronically at viewermail at capitalotb.com. Time to thank all the folks who helped get this week's show on the air. Dan Hayes directed, and Pat Peretta and Kurt Flick, our associate producer Julie Hoxie. And special thanks to this morning's guests, Mr. Bill Nader, the Senior Vice President of the New York Racing Association, Mr. Doug O'Neill, and Mr. Greg Gilchrist. Some nice races this weekend.
Sure.
And on next week's show, we'll recap them all. And next week's show, the last in-studio
Saratoga.
program prior to Saratoga.
We're almost there.
So you ready?
Of course I'm ready.
Good.
Absolutely. I've been preparing for this.
I want you to enjoy this weekend. Every degree that it gets
email
warmer.
email him and tell him how good he looks this morning now that this global warming has entered this very studio. So
have a good weekend.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. Enjoy all the wonderful racing action here at Capitol from coast to coast. Don't miss the return of Declan's Moon tomorrow at Hollywood Park. Have a great weekend and a terrific upcoming week. Michael and I will see you next week.